the Rooted Family Podcast, how to mindfully root ourselves and our families so that we can grow strong and aligned. Join me, Erin Sadler, as we discuss all things parenting, kids, health, wellness, and developing a roadmap for life that has you and your family thriving, not just surviving. I am a mom of 3. I'm a teacher with a master's degree in education, a health and wellness coach, a brain health coach, and a life coach. I love coaching kids and grown-ups on how to grow in mindful self-awareness to strengthen connections that support healthy brains. I have developed my own program called Grow Strong Roots, which teaches preschool through 5th grade students how to mindfully integrate academics with social-emotional skills, self-regulation, and brain-boosting values, including kindness, gratitude, creativity, resilience, courage, respect, responsibility, healthy eating, and healthy movement. I have found my purpose, and it is to help families, children, schools, and communities learn how to turn stress into success and plant seeds of love, peace, and happiness that will grow and blossom. Speaking, coaching, and teaching the Rooted Family Method for growing strong roots and seeing children and families transform when they understand these concepts is my passion. Because when we grow strong roots, we can withstand any storm life may throw at us. Hi everybody, it's Erin from the Rooted Family. Welcome to the Treehouse today. Hope everybody's having a great day. Thanks for joining me if you're on the radio. Thanks for listening to 103.5. And if you're listening to me on the podcast, thank you. Don't forget to leave a comment so I can send you some swag. I hope everybody's having a great day today. Today's topic is something that has come across my consciousness at least 5 times in the last couple days, and I have a feeling it's because it is May and it is the end of school, and parents, teachers, kids across the nation are done. D-O-N-E, done. So our topic today is, how do I deal with my child who is frustrated, who is having a huge emotional response to frustration? What do I do about that? And what do I do about it if, one thing I get a lot when I get asked questions is, I try breathing and my kid doesn't want to do breathing when they're angry. And I get it, because if you only pull that out of your bag of tricks when your kid is frustrated or angry, it's not going to work. That's just not how mindfulness works in general. Breathing can help, don't get me wrong. But if your kid it's not a normal part of their day to breathe to regulate their emotions, or you guys don't take breaths, just short breaths, like, oh, mom's feeling overwhelmed. Let's all just take some breaths. Or, we're on our way to practice. We've been zipping around all day. Let's just take a couple deep breaths. Or welcome home from school. Let's just take a couple deep breaths and be present with each other. Or, anytime. Before you go to bed is a great time to do it. Brushing your teeth. Brush your teeth and then just look in the bathroom mirror. Tell yourself some super awesome things about yourself and take some deep breaths, which, by the way, we should all be doing. And if you can train your kiddo to start saying kind things to themselves while they're brushing their teeth in the mirror and maybe taking a few deep breaths, that would be amazing. Those self-affirmations are so good for your brain. So looking at yourself in the mirror and saying nice things to yourself is a brain builder. So when I've had this question of what do I do when my kid is frustrated, and they're the frustration's turning into a gigantic meltdown. So let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, first thing I want to tell you is, if you look on this podcast, I will put a link to my free resource, which is your emotional level awareness chart. And that is sort of what I'm also going to be integrating into the plan today. So you can take a look at that, because we're going to be talking a little bit about that as well. So make sure you check that out. The other thing, if you are just joining us and you're new to how to incorporate mindfulness into your kids' day, you may want to check out Book and Breathe, which is my online series for parents and kids. You guys get to do it together. And what I like to do, because we live in a world where I don't think very many of you sit down with your kids for
30 minutes on a meditation pillow and everybody just breathes. If you do, then I would like to come to your house. But most of us need to find those times within our day that we can just carve out a few minutes to help our kids learn that. So Book and Breathe is really the way to do that. It gives you applicable ways to introduce some quick, mindful breaths that you can do with your kids to help with that self-regulation, help with that brain training. And then I mix it in with fun books, so you're actually getting reading in there too. And it's for ages, I would say about 3 to 7. So for ages 3 to 7, and it has some learning. So they're learning about social emotional regulation. They're learning about one of our brain boosters. And it's kind of all mixed together because I know we're parents and we can mindfully multitask. I'm not saying we should do a million things at a time, but if we can put those things into one thing, so it's actually lessening the amount of things we need to do, but it's all together, like, let's do it. So you can check out Book and Breathe at therootedfamily.com. But definitely click that free resource so you have that chart when we get started. Okay, so here is how I help kiddos to deal with, and families to deal with frustrating behavior. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, maybe you sit down to do homework and it very quickly escalates into a fit and frustration and pencil throwing and crying because your kid feels like they can't do the math in front of them. And usually there's some negative self-talk right there, or there's some talk towards you about how they feel about you in that moment of anger. But it's a big meltdown when things don't go their way, or when they can't. This is also a perfectionism thing. If they can't get it 100% right, this is the kiddo that colors a picture and then decides it's not good enough and rips it up. They're very frustrated with themselves. So part of it is realizing that not every frustration is the same. Even though you may be seeing that same frustrating behavior, it might not be stemming from the same spot. So being aware of that, like perfectionism, and needing to get it right 100%, maybe one time, and then the next time might be something a little bit different. So what we want to encourage those kids is that growth mindset, that making mistakes is okay. And actually we want to make mistakes because when we make mistakes or we try and we don't get it right the first time, our brain actually lights up a lot more than if we were to get it right the first time. And it definitely lights up a lot more than not trying at all. So there's a great book out there called Bubblegum Brain. And so it sort of talks about that neuroplasticity and in trying things and how that actually grows your brain and grows your neural networks. So number one thing I would do is explain that to your kiddo. And I can also list a couple other books down there that help explain that growth mindset, but letting them know that their brain actually grows and learns more when they don't get it right. And I will tell you, when I go in classrooms and teach this to kids, and I teach it with a puppet because that's my jam, we always say, I can't do it yet. I can't do it yet. I can't do it yet, but I can try. And I have a whole puppet that's a Yeti that we go in and we talk about growth mindset. And I have a couple others, but he's a really good one for teaching that. So saying we can't do it yet, but you can try is huge. And you will see, I see it in the schools I work in, I see in my own school that I work in, that kids help themselves when they are independently working, because I've seen them say that to themselves. So they actually make it an internal mantra for themselves. I can't do it yet. I can't do it yet. I can't do it yet, but I can try. And then they jump in and try. I've also seen kids, especially in a classroom setting, which is really cool. So if you have siblings at home, help each other out with that, or remind the person of that. If they're starting to get frustrated with something, they can remind them, I can't do it yet, but I can try. And then it's partly us making the space and the time for them to make a mistake. If you've ever worked with a kiddo who's tying their shoes, and you have to get somewhere, we end up tying their shoes because we need to get to our next spot. So actually carving in the time to say, like, you know what, this kiddo needs to learn how to tie their shoes. And so I need to plan an extra 10 minutes because we're not going to nail it the first time. It's probably going to take 10 minutes to try, but I want them to at least try. But when we're always in a rush or we're going somewhere, we end up doing it for them. And that is not helping brains grow at all. That's creating unnecessary dependency. And then that spills into all sorts of places of our lives where, we don't let them be dependent in that area or expect them to bridge that gap and try. But then later on, we're wondering why they're always asking for us or why they won't go get a spoon out of the drawer by themselves. But we have told them that we're going to do it for them. So part of it is your mindset too, going into this of, I need to plan in a little extra time and I need to make it a priority to let them reach a little bit further than they're comfortable with so that they can grow brains. And if I were you as a parent and you're working on something specifically, like a specific skill with your kid, maybe it's homework help, what would help them reach and try for themselves before you stepped in? What level would that need to be at? And then I would communicate that to the kiddo. Like, here's what I would like to see happen before I'm going to step in and help you. And then you have to be consistent and follow through. So what's going on in the brain? When we're having those huge frustrating moments, we're having a huge reaction, an emotional reaction in our amygdala. And part of what's going on is that part has been triggered. And some people say, my kid goes from 0 to that frustration, that crazy frustration level, and there's no warning. And two things can be happening there. One, they could just not be sharing that with you. It's building, but they're not sharing, they're not telling you that emotion. So you only see calm and then that, or that is their first reaction. They've trained their brain that when I start to feel uncomfortable about something not being easy for me, it triggers that stress response right away. And we want to help wire their brains differently so that they don't go to that stress response first, that their first response is a different strategy to get them more in that prefrontal cortex of how to think through a problem. So if your kid is one of those that goes 0 to super angry, and if you're looking at the frustration level chart, level 1 is the blue one. It says peaceful and calm. And level 5 is you're completely frustrated and angry. You yell or hurt someone with your words or actions, and you feel overwhelmed with emotion and may cry. If you feel like they go from a 1 to a 5, then it's time to build in some new strategies for them, because that's not good on their bodies to have that much stress and to have that stress response happen so quickly, and be their go-to. It's going to lead to destructive behaviors. It's going to lead to probably negative emotions about themselves, and it's not going to help their self-esteem or their confidence level at all. So we want to build that confidence and growth mindset using that growth mindset principle of I can't do it yet, but I can try, helps build confidence in kids, because then when they do get it, they've established through their neural connections that I can do something over and over again and not do it well, but eventually I will get it, or I will figure out a way to do it, or I will figure out another way that works for me. It's like giving yourself a bunch of different escape routes out of a situation. If you only know you can escape out of one door, you feel very locked in. But if you know there's 7 doors around you and you can take any one of those at any time, all of a sudden you don't feel as much pressure on you because you're like, oh, there's 7 doors right there. I can pick any of them at any time. Okay. So as parents, we want to give emotional support first. And you might be thinking, what does that mean? So we want to be emotionally supportive to our kids, but we don't want to be crutches for our kids. And we also don't want to be reactive to their emotional state, which is, as you know, if you're a parent, that can be really hard sometimes. So number 1, I want you to know your plan ahead of time. What are you going to do when that happens? And I want you to discuss that plan with your kid. And do not do this at a time when they are in a heightened emotional state. Bring this up at a time where everybody's calm and peaceful, and maybe say, I've been thinking about how that situation went, and I think we can make it easier and better and not be so frustrating. Can you help me come up with a plan to do that? Here's what I was thinking I could do on my end. What would you like to do on your end? What would help you? So right there, you're saying, I'm here to emotionally support you. I'm not enabling you to continue the behavior. I want to see change, but I'm here to be supportive. Let's come up with a plan together, and then let's follow it together so we both have a positive outcome for this. And this takes repetition and trying. This is not a one and done plan thing. This is something where I would write it down. Both of you write it down and keep it somewhere, so when the frustration starts, you can just pull it out and say, okay, let's follow our plan. It helps organize your kid's brain. It helps organize your brain. It helps everybody stay focused on what the goal is. The goal is not to get to a level 5. The goal is, if we're getting to a 3 or we're getting to a 4 of being irritated or stressed or feeling frustrated like you might yell, that you can back it up. Like a 90s rap song, back it up to a 1 or a 2, and you can get it back under control before we go to a 5. That's what we want to do. We want to respond, not react. So know your plan ahead of time. Talk to your partner. If there's 2 of you in the house co-parenting, talk to whoever it is, and everybody come up with a plan together. Because I will tell you, the easiest way to shoot yourself in the foot in your household is if one of you is doing it one way and one of you is doing it another way, and that is not good for the kid, because the kid is confused and does not know what's going on, and it does not feel emotionally supportive. It feels unstable, which is only going to increase the amount of frustration that kid feels. Instability plus frustration equals not very fun for you as a parent or that kid, and it results in a lot of issues. So I understand that somebody might want to do it their way and somebody might want to do it their way. That is a great way to discuss and write down how you're going to do it together, because depending on how you're raised, and if you're co-parenting, 2 people come in at looking at it very differently. So you're the grown-ups. We got to sit down. We got to come up with a plan, and then go talk to the kid all together about how all 3 of you are going to do that. Number 2, discuss before activities what you want this to look like. So you have your plan when you're about to start something, and you don't always know, but sometimes you do know. Like if it's always homework, or it's typically when they're doing art projects because they like to do them perfectly, and or writing letters or whatever it happens to be at that moment, if that is typically a frustration point for them, then that's a time when you can discuss it before it starts. Hey, we're about to start homework today. I really want this to be not frustrating, as minimal as possible, and I want us to both come out of this where we're having a good time and it's not going to escalate. And so we're going to follow our plan, and then go through and say what the plan is so that everybody knows. And then we're going to, at that time too, we're going to be setting boundaries, and I'll talk about those in just a little bit, about how to set boundaries so you're not getting emotionally abused, and so that your kid's not repeatedly spilling emotions onto you, because we don't want them to take that out into the world and do that to other people either. So sort of training them that that's not an acceptable way. Just because you're feeling frustrated, you cannot take it out on everybody else. Number 3 is to use the chart as a dialogue tool for both of you. So if you're noticing your kids getting frustrated and they're not speaking it, you can sort of see it through their body language. Maybe ask them, where are you feeling right now? Are you on a level 3? Are you on a level 4? If so, maybe we need to take a break and do some breathing, or what could we do? What did we decide to do in our plan? Did we decide to set the timer for 2 minutes and everybody gets up and walks around and gets a drink of water, and then we all come back to the table? What's something we can do to help that? Or ask your child what they would like to do. They probably have a million things they like to do. It doesn't mean they don't have to do their homework. It just means we don't need it to escalate to the next level. And really, as a parent, I know you want to get that homework done and you might have a time crunch and you might need to get things done. But helping your kid emotionally regulate this at this point is a lot more important than if you were to take a 5-minute break from homework. So sort of also assessing your priorities. So using the chart as a dialogue tool for both of you, and then you as the parent and the kiddo have to be consistent. And we want parent coaches to be an example. So if when your child gets frustrated, you get frustrated, and then you both are feeding off of each other, that's not helping anything. That's only reinforcing that frustration behavior. So if that means that you need to also employ some mindful behavior, breathing, walking away, then that's what you need to do. And that's what you need to do consistently. You can't one time be yelling and screaming or coaxing or whatever your tools are that you're going to use. That's what you need to use. And start when kids are on blue or green. When kids are overly tired or they're hungry, and we're just pushing at them, and we already know that they're at a 3 or a 4, it is only going to end poorly for you. So making sure we do things to start at a level 1 or a level 2, we're peaceful and calm, and maybe that means that they need a little creative playtime. Maybe that means they need to play Legos for 20 minutes with knowing that they are going to go do this when the timer comes up. For some kids, they need that downtime and then they need to go do it. For other kids, that's only going to escalate it, because once you tell them to stop, they're not going to want to stop. And then you got to go the other route. So sort of assessing what the state is that's going to work for you. And when your kid is so when we're talking about boundaries, and when your kid is getting frustrated, and you are allowed to set the boundaries for how you want to be treated by anybody who is speaking to you, even if it's your own kid. So it's okay to say things like, I love you and I'm happy to talk to you when you can speak to me kindly, or I'm happy to talk to you when you're ready to talk to me in a calm voice. So that they know too, when they go out in the world, that everybody needs to be respectfully talked to. And that just helps them know that. If they're continually using their language and their emotional state to say unkind things to you or to yell at you, and we're just letting that continue because they're frustrated, well, then when they get frustrated in the world, they're going to do that to somebody else. So we don't want that to happen. So just saying things like, I love you, happy to talk to you when you can speak to me kindly, and then you can walk out of the room. You can go take some deep breaths. You can let your child know, I'm feeling like I'm on a level 3 right now. So I'm going to employ one of my tools so I can go back to a 2 or a 1 right now. It's also okay to say, I'm feeling, and then insert your emotional words. So I need to take a break from this homework activity. I need to take whatever the activity is, not the child, but I'm feeling very frustrated in this situation. I need to take a break from this situation, and then walking away from that. I am at an orange. I'm at an orange and I feel like I might yell, and I don't want to yell. I want to take responsibility for how I'm treating others. So that means I'm going to go in the other room and breathe for a little bit. That's okay to do. That's actually modeling a really good way of setting boundaries. So also that when that happens to your child, if somebody takes their frustrations out on your child has the skills to say, oh yeah, I don't let other people talk to me like that. So I am going to walk away, go breathe. It just helps establish some of those conflict resolution things that they need to know how to deal with. So when you're showing them and modeling that they can't treat you like that, then they're also learning, I can't treat others like that, and I should not let others treat me like that, because I should have enough respect for myself. So that's just some boundaries you should set when you're at the beginning. Talking to your kid. If it gets out of control, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to be yelled at anymore. I'm done with being yelled at. And so when that happens, I'm going to choose to walk away. I still love you and I still want to help you. I just don't want to help you while I'm getting yelled at. I want to help you in a calm state. So when you're able to do that, let's go for it. And when we're having meltdowns and we're at that amygdala level, and I see this a lot, I just saw it yesterday, when a kiddo is having a full-on frustration meltdown, what I see a lot is parents giving lots of choices, and their amygdala is overloaded and they're not in the state to make choices right now. They're not in their prefrontal cortex thinking brain. They're having a real emotional reaction. And so if you are saying, do you want to go inside or outside, or do you want to color that or not color that, or what if you use these colors, or it's too much, they can't handle it. At that point, when it's switched from the activity to now the emotion is the thing we're dealing with. So we're not dealing with the math anymore. Now we're dealing with the fact that you're having a meltdown about the math. Then we need to go to, what tool do you want to help you regulate or to gain control? What tool do you want to use? Or what can you use to help regulate? So the choice does not become whether we're doing the math or not. The choice now becomes, what tool can you use to help calm you down? We got to get the emotion settled first and then go back to the math. So what are you going to use? And then if your child does not choose, then you choose for them. And that might be something that you've already discussed in your plan ahead of time. If you choose not to use one of your strategies that we've written down, then I choose for you. And this is most likely what my choices will be. Here's 1, 2, and 3. And maybe it's you leave the room, or they leave the room, or it can be a myriad of things. But I mean, there's not a lot of, you can't make them breathe if they don't want to breathe. If they're choosing not to use their strategies, then you just need to choose something that's going to be safe, emotionally safe for you and that kiddo, and safe physically for you and that kiddo. And then let them have space until it calms down. And so we just don't want to have a situation where you're just negatively, emotionally feeding off of each other, where it just keeps going. So very straight to the point, what tool would you like to use to help you get yourself under control? Or what tool can you use to gain control? Or in my classroom, and this is with 3 and 4-year-olds, I say, can you think of a tool you could use to help you with some regulations? Or regulate your behavior? Or can we regulate this? And I use the word regulate with them. Or how are you feeling right now? Do you feel like, because you can usually see with kiddos, how are you feeling right now? And then if they, sometimes when they're angry, they don't respond with, oh, I'm feeling very angry right now. That's where the chart comes in great, because then you can pull out the chart and say like, oh, can you point to the one to tell me how you're feeling? Oh, I see. You're at a level 4. Okay, is there a tool you could use right now to help you? What would you like to do? And then if they still don't, I might say like, okay, well, when you're ready, I'm here. I would love to talk about it or see what happened. Until then, I'm just going to give you some space and go over to the other side of the room. Or would you like to go over to the beanbags and read a book and give yourself some space? We will give you space to calm down so you have your own space. Would you like to do that? And if they don't answer no, and they're still doing something that might be emotionally or physically harmful to somebody else, then that's my turn as the teacher to help them regulate, help give them a choice for regulating themselves. So that might be us moving away from you, but then I'm making the choice, me moving away from you, so that I'm not physically or emotionally harmed. Okay, so just to recap, I want you to get that chart off so you have it, even if you just look at it, and have it handy in case you need it in your back pocket. You can print a whole bunch, put one in your purse. If you're out and you know that when you go out somewhere, that's typically a trigger, before you get out of the car, if for example, if going into stores and the kiddo not getting something at a store is a trigger, and that's going to trigger a frustrated response, then you need that chart in your car of the parking lot to say, here's our plan. Here's our plan ahead of time. Here's what I expect. Here's what we're going into. Here are the boundaries. Here is the chart. Where are you right now? If your kid is at an orange already, do not go in that store. That's going to end poorly for all of you. If we're feeling peaceful and calm, we know what strategies we're going to use, we know what skills we're going to use, then by all means, go on into that store because everybody knows what they're going to do. And when you walk by something and your child says, I want that, and you can see that, and then as you walk away, that you can see it start to build that frustration level. Have that discussion of, we talked about what the plan is, and here's what the plan is if you choose to not use a regulation skill. So sort of just talking through them about that. And going through emotions is okay. Showing kids that they can go through frustration and come out the other side, that we don't have to just, so often I think we teach kids that they just need to stop frustration. But that frustration can really be a great catalyst for new thinking and problem solving. The best problems in the world were solved when somebody was frustrated about something. I mean, that's why we have all these great inventions, because somebody was frustrated about something. So pointing that out to kids, frustration is not a bad thing. But the difference is between somebody who's having a huge temper tantrum and somebody who creates a life-saving whatever it is that they chose to use that frustration as a catalyst for brain growth, as a growth mindset tool. They let it wire their brain to help solve a problem. If they would have just stayed in an amygdala flare-up, they never would have helped whomever was helped by whatever they created. So using the stress of the frustration as a catalyst to get you to the next level. In the Grow Strong Roots program, we say you're either growing or you're branching out. So you're either still learning something, or you've reached the level where you understand it and now you're ready to branch out and learn new things. You can't get to branching out if you never grow through your frustrations. And so that takes work on both our parenting part with giving kids enough time and allowing them to reach for that high fruit, and knowing that they might not get it the first time, but not picking it off the tree for them and handing it to them, letting them figure out that they might need a ladder, or figuring out how to climb the tree, or figuring out how to throw something up at the tree to knock that fruit down. That's all problem solving. That was growth mindset built out of frustration. We just don't want it to escalate to the point where we are impeding our own wellness, emotional wellness, and our physical well-being. So try those things. Give them a try and let me know what you think. They've helped me and my kiddos and me in my classroom. So I hope they help you too. And if you are looking for, on a side note, if you are looking for quick breathing that you can have in your back pocket, then do check out Book and Breathe, because each one has 5 breathing activities, and those are ones that you can have in your brain or write them quickly down on a piece of paper. When you are in that parking lot, just remind your kiddo, hey, remember when we watched Book and Breathe, that bumblebee breathing? Yeah, well, if we're starting to feel that frustration, that bumblebee is so good for taking that stress level down and eliminating the sensory from the outside world, and you really do go within yourself. So your whole vestibular system just calms down a little bit. So having a couple of those breathing exercises in your back pocket. So check out Book and Breathe and see. I always do quick ones that moms have and dads and parents and grandparents and everybody as like quick resources you can grab and use that are effective and that I have road tested in my classroom and in my own home. So anyway, have a great